185milessouth.com.
Smash that Patreon button.
185 Miles South, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
In this corner, the challenger, fighting out of the hard corner. From Seattle, Washington, it's the Axeman of the band Change. It is the mighty, mighty Positive Christopher Chris. And his opponent, fighting out of the core corner. From parts unknown, weight unknown. Reason he didn't pick Minor Threat in the Straight Edge Super 7, unknown. It is the reigning, defending, undisputed 185 Miles South trivia champion of the world, Daniel, these questions are too easy, Sant!
All right, and the first question goes to Posi Chris. All right, Chris, Andy Diehard sang in this band between Diehard Youth and Ill Communication, which is also a famous U2 hit song.
Before you said the famous U2 song, I was going to say, is it Sunday Bloody Sunday? With or Without You?
A point to Posi Chris. All right, kicking it off right. And Dan, we go to you. Dan, if you're in Washington, D.C., and you're talking shit on Striking Distance and Bar Fight, you might end up with what Cocksparrer song?
If you're talking shit on Bar Fight and what? The question, I don't know if the question makes sense to me.
If you're in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
and you're talking shit on Striking Distance and Bar Fight and Red-Headed Frontmen, you might end up with what Cocksparrer song?
Okay. Am I overthinking this? I must be, right?
Possibly. You might also be thinking early. You might be thinking too early on the Cocksparrer catalog.
Oh, you're probably screwing me with something like 90s Cocksparrer.
Yeah, but this song's a hit. This song's a hit.
Well, I was going to say that we were, like, if you were talking about Striking Distance, you got to do the song "What's It Like to Be Old."
Wow, dude. Dave Bird is going to mush you. All right, we go to Posi Chris for the possible steal. Chris, if you're in Washington, D.C. and you're talking shit on Striking Distance and Bar Fight, you might end up with what Cocksparrer song?
Dude, I'm drawing a total blank on the names of like literally every Cocksparrer song. I know it's not Seeing Red.
The answer is Bird Trouble.
Oh, God.
You might end up with some Bird Trouble, like Dan's gonna for that old joke.
Yeah, for real. But do you think if I had answered Argy Bargy, it would have been accepted?
I don't know, Dan. No. We'll have to save that for another time. Okay, we go back to Posi Chris for his question number 2. Chris, what was the name of the Misfits fan club?
Jeez. I don't even... Is it the Fiend?
Dan, you scoff, but you're making fun of Posi Chris, who might brain fart this one.
Oh, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just... the Bird Trouble to this.
Is it the Fiend Club?
A point to Posi Chris. Oh. Daniel can take his mocking and shove it. All right, Dan. Dan, your question number 2. Uniform Choice had multiple people who had this 3-letter name.
Pat.
A point to the champ. Back in the game. All right, we go to Chris for his question number 3. Chris, the Earth Crisis Firestorm 7-inch was released in what year?
1992.
We go to Dan for the possible steal. Dan, the Earth Crisis Firestorm 7-inch was released in what year?
1993.
So close, Chris. So
The
close.
Cowboys were strong.
Oh, that's all right. Okay, here we go to Dan for your question number 3. Dan, which came first? Unbroken, Life, Love, Regret, or Stuffed Crust Pizza at Pizza Hut?
It's gotta be Life, Love, Regret.
A point to the champ. Life, Love, Regret comes out in 1994. Stuffed Crust Pizza at Pizza Hut, 1995.
Ooh.
Okay, Chris, and we go to you for yours. Which came first? The Restraining Order LP, titled This World Is Too Much, or Nacho Fries at Taco Bell?
Let's say nacho fries.
A point to Chris. Nacho Fries come out in the year 2018, and Restraining Order puts out one of the best LPs in the year 2019. Okay, we go to Dan. Question number 4. Dan, what is Equal Vision Records number 1?
EVR number 1. Is that Shelter?
We are going to give it to you regardless of if you can title the 7-inch. It is. It's the Shelter No Compromise 7-inch.
Yeah.
All right, and we go to Chris for his number 5.
Shout
Chris.
out to Beads.
This is the title of a Killing Time song, and also a notable New York band who did records on Reaper and Bridge 9.
Man, backtrack.
A point to Chris, and that was me typing, not Chris cheating.
I had
Right.
that in my backtrack pocket.
Dan was ready for the steal, but we go to him for his question number 5. Dan, what year were the 2 Minor Threat 7-inches re-released on LP format?
Oh, it's fairly early, isn't it? Like,
Don't be digging for clues from me. And Ben's not here. He ain't helping you either.
well, he never helps me. He usually just laughs.
He helps me very much. Shout out, Bedge.
Yes. 1986.
We go to Chris for the possible steal. Chris, what year were the 2 Minor Threat 7-inches re-released on LP format?
I want to say early, but I feel like it's a trick question. I'm going to go later. I'm going to say 87.
Correct answer, 1983. Very early.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
The CD comes out in the late 80s. Okay, nothing in that round. Chris, we go to you for round number 6. True or false, the Bold LP Speak Out on Revelation Records was not released on color vinyl until over 10 years after its original release.
Oh man, now you're really in my lane. Bold trivia. I don't know. True.
Point to Posi Chris. It was not out on color vinyl, although it did have beautiful gatefold.
Yeah,
Original.
didn't get the colored vinyl, but they did get the GF.
That's right. You can't get it all back then.
Yeah,
You know, when they're trying to sell an LP for $7 or some shit, right?
Other funds on the gatefold. They couldn't get the color vinyl.
That's right. They couldn't get that extra 10 cents for the color vinyl. Okay, Dan, question number 6. The punk subgenre UK82 is taken from one of this band's songs.
Oh my god, I just was instantly going to say something, and now I'm like second guessing myself. Oh my god.
Now, 185 listeners, let's remember that once upon a time, Dan gave us a starter kit on UK82.
I definitely did, and
I feel like he mentioned this on the starter kit too.
I believe so too, because I think that's where I learned it.
yeah, and I believe I gave a really good one too. Like I think it was good, but I am gonna be so mad at myself, but I'm gonna say exploited.
He's the champ for a reason, people. The champ don't miss. It is
God.
exploited, and let me total this up.
Do you know
The
how hard it is?
subtotals.
Sorry, you know how hard it is when you're on the spotlight. You completely something that's just instant knowledge. You second guess it and almost talk yourself out of it. You know,
Dude, I'm on this side of the mic for a reason. I cannot imagine. And I respect you all for stepping up to the plate. Okay, let's do this. The subtotals are.
Now Zach's got to do math because Ben ain't here.
That's right. But it looks simple. Dan has 5 points. The champ has 5. And the challenger, Posi Chris, he's got 5 as well. We're tied going in to the daily double round. The double round.
What? What? Okay.
Chris, how many points would you like to wager on this round?
Oh man, how many points do I want to throw away? I'll do 4.
Chris is going 4. Okay, and Dan, how many points do you want to wager?
I usually say let's just go for it, go for the glory, but like I know I'm not gonna get it, and so like it'd be nice to at least just have 1 point to like hold on to and keep me warm at night.
Yeah, respect the strategy, man. That's what it's all about. Dan, how many points do you want to wager?
I will also match the courageous Chris with a 4-point bet.
All right, we're doing 4 points each. Okay, and let's see here. We are going to... Sorry, Bedge isn't here, so I'm a little slower.
You
We're
got the
going to
tiebreaker
Chris for
queued up,
his,
though, right?
which is number 19, and it's right here. Posi Chris, you got to tell us these 25 to life lyrics. Here we go.
I assume I get more
Of course.
lessons.
Here we go again. 3 times in a row. One more time.
I feel like we've had this one before.
Possibly. I don't think so, though. I've done a pretty good job at marking them off.
All right, give me one more time.
You got it.
I don't know. Perpetrator, strength against the strength.
So close. So close. Perpetrator, so quick to use the name. Everybody sing along. All right. Posi Chris is down
We have
2.
had that one before.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think once you said it in like real words, real English, I remember that one.
So even when people have been given the answer, they still can't say the 25 to life lyric.
If you
But
give
Dan,
me
here you go.
6'2", what you're gonna do? I'll get that one.
That's right. That's right. Okay, Dan, here we go. Got an easy one for you.
The production on this song is so bad you can't even hear him over the music.
I hear it perfect.
Because it's built into your brain. All right, give it to me 3 times in a row.
You got it.
Something like one thing has gone to the distance, but we've been done right. That's what I'm hearing.
Not even close. We all have it in us to forgive. Until the cycle's broken, we must tolerate. Everybody sing along.
Well, you know what? I heard it
True.
after you sort of heard it after.
He barely says broken. That's where it's confusing.
Yeah,
But you can hear
also-
everything otherwise. Here we go. One more time. Everybody sing along. I think he just doesn't say broken. He says, we all have it in us to forgive until the cycles we must tolerate. Anyway, this is way too long to be spending on 25 to life lyrics. We are tied at one point because no one has ever gotten a 25 to life lyric correct, except for
Right.
Dan on an episode that I forgot to hit record.
Yeah.
That is lost
Likely
history.
story.
And I was also one word off once.
That's true. And the one time you got it right was keeping it real to fuck with Dawn.
Yeah.
So
Well,
barely counts.
we
Anyway,
were keeping it real then.
that's right. So we're tiebreaker. Guys, we're going to go back and forth. Let me alphabetize these real quick. Jesus. And what you got to think about is we are going back and forth. This is songs off of 7 Seconds to Crew. And
This is the stuff that I dread because I don't even remember the names of my own band songs.
dude, I feel you. If you go out early, there's no hate from my side. It's Dan who does that British scoffing that is very disrespectful. So, anyway, Dan, let's go to you first. Or Chris, we should say you're the challenger. You want to go first? You want to go second?
Let's give it to Dan.
All right, Dan. Take a song off 7 Seconds to Crew. We go back and forth until someone is stumped or someone repeats.
Young Till I Die.
Yep, there it is. Go to Chris.
Red and Black.
And there it is. We go back to Dan.
Here's Your Warning.
First song off the record, and we go back to Chris.
That was the one that I was queuing up in my. This is also hard too because like this and Walk Together, Rock Together are so like interchangeable for me. So like I can never remember which is on which.
Dude, I feel you. You know, before we aired, I told Dan, don't set it up to tie Chris because I got no tiebreaker. So this is the last minute thing.
Trust.
Yep. Last song on the record. Back to Dan.
Clenched Fist, Black Eyes.
Oh yeah, classic song. Back to Chris.
Colorblind.
It is there. Colorblind, one word. Back to Dan.
Definite Choice.
Dan with an answer that he Googled. And back to Chris.
Oh, please. I could ninja sneak away and go get my record.
What have we done so far? Are we allowed to ask that, or is that
I don't think you're allowed to ask that because if you repeat, you lose.
okay?
We have a song that Good Clean Fun covered. We have a pre-integrity band.
Jeez, these are.
Oh, you just gave me that pre-integrity one.
I don't know. I give up.
Dan,
No.
still the champ. What was the pre-integrity you would have gone with, Dan?
Die Hard.
There it is. And the last name of someone who's lurking. We'll bring it in. Congratulations, Dan.
Andy
Still the
Diehard.
champ.
You know what I would have also said? We didn't say The Crew yet, did we? Which was the title track.
That is correct. Plus, Dan's favorite band, Good Clean Fun, covers Not Just Boys Fun.
Way to go, dude.
What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we are talking hardcore. Helping out, you know him, you love him. He is the best dressed man on the pod. He is Daniel Sant. What's up, Dan?
Most of the time you are happy, you're a weirdo.
Also helping out, 6'2". What you gonna do? It is the mighty Posi Chris. What's up, Chris?
Perpetrator, so quick to lay the blame.
And the nicest man at hardcore, it is Andy Diehard. What's up, Andy?
Yo, what's happening?
Yep. Okay, let's jump right into it. I want to start off by talking some newer-ish music. And shout out Mike Cheese. We're jumping right into the new Gehenna LP, Negative Hardcore. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. Side A is like recent material. Side B was written like in 2014, 2012, 2014, and just recorded now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's what Mike informed us, but Jesus Christ. Side A and Side B. Excellente.
Dude, Side A is just straight ass beaters. You know what I mean? But I think Side B is where it gets spectacular. Let me jump in a little bit. Gehenna does such a good job on this of like mixing black metal and death metal, but like using hardcore sensibilities. And there is a bit of Slayer in there. I'm not going to say there's too much thrash, but there is a little bit of like solo Slayer, you know? What makes them great though is they use a lot of like the dynamics of death metal and thrash metal in like this black metal stuff. Cause like so much of black metal is just spooky goblin. Like I'm a spooky guy, you know? And he doesn't sound like that. And also like this sounds hard. The recording is big. It's not overproduced. So it's still got a little bit of that black metal cred. Like it sounds a tiny bit lo-fi, but it also sounds like big and nice and feels good to listen to, you know? The drummer also, like, he busts like every beat possible. You know, there's a scissor beat on this, there's blast beats on this, there's straight double time, there's slow parts, there's youth crew toms. And also, like, almost every song on this LP, like, has a big moment. You know, like, even if it's just a straight ass beater song, there's gonna be like a part where there's like a drum break where the drummer's gonna do like a bunch of kind of simple fills in a row that like really work, or there's gonna be like some sort of change. I'll jump into the songs in a minute. But Dan, what's your take on this? And how does it stack up against that Gehenna demo that you love so much?
I mean, just because of the way that demo like just hit me at the time and has stayed with me forever, the demo will always be king. But this is definitely the Prince of Wales of the of the Gehenna. It's like next in line. Like it is so good. And it is so amazing to have, you know, been a little bit, I won't say on hiatus, or because I don't know the true story of what they've been doing, but to percolate and come up with this, you know, and give it to us in 2022 is just so rad. You really nailed it on the where their sound lies in those genres, because when music starts getting extremely metallic, it's very hard for me to know within the metallic genres where lots of things are lying. Like I will say something, oh, this reminds me of being this, and then people who are steeped in metal are like, no, it's not like that, it's like this. I'm like, oh, okay, because to me it's all hardcore, you know, and Gehenna is hardcore, negative hardcore even. Some of my favorite songs on it, I mean, I love that guitar lick on Where the Worms Do Not Die. That it stands above the rest of the song doing the wah, wah, like kind of thing. It's super good. What's in It for Me, so good. Empty Wasted World, loved it. I've just really love Gehenna because somebody that is steeped in this kind of hardcore and leaning into a lot of metal and having deep metal record collections and being able to reference this, lots of bands go down this road and then get lost to that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Gehenna is a hardcore band first, even if it's extremely metallic sounding. It is dyed in the wool, like you said, the drums lead you to that belief a lot. The way the songs are structured, the way Mike's doing vocals on certain parts, like it's all extremely heavy and deep and dark, very dark. But at the same time, there is that pulse running through it all the way that makes it ours. You know, it's
and more than anything, it's the brevity of the songs, right? It's like you're mashing up like death metal and black metal into like and actually you're following like how those songs are, like the parts, but it's the brevity of hardcore, right? Like they're summing this up in a minute and a half, right?
Or 2 minutes 20, you know, like where it's not 4 minutes 53 seconds, you know.
Absolutely. Side A, just straight ass beater. Gotta say, like the third track, Return to Simpler Times, that mid-tempo banger right in Dan's alley, and then it drops into those like crazy YOLO blast beats. Like, dude, that song is YOLO as fuck. But like side B, I think is where this LP like really excels. Again, if you're just looking for ass beater music, that first side is something special. What But side 2, it like, I don't know, it diverges a little more, I guess, but like still staying like right in the lane. Like, I think the best song on the record is that the first one on side B, the No War, No Peace. Because like on that breakdown part, like when the guitarist is doing like the palm muted down picking, it almost sounds like off time. And it's wild because this guitarist is a shredder. Like, I don't know if it's like sloppy on purpose or what, but like it's just a little off time, but it gives me like a psychedelic effect. Like, I've had one too many drinks. I'm in a giant push pit. I love listening to that part on headphones. I've listened to it so many times. It is just like a wild part. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And if it's intentional, like someone needs to, buy that guy a sandwich or something. Cause it's like, it's spectacular, and if it's an accident, then like, fuck it. Happy accident. Second song on that side, like the way they dance, it's called Death in Disguise. The way they dance in and out of the blast beat, like so seamlessly, is like super impressive. Again, it's that YOLO spirit, right? You don't like know you need it, but you do, and they deliver it, right? You wouldn't expect it. You can't write it that way because like you don't have it in you, but they deliver it, and it's right, And then ending that song on the Youth Crew toms, again, we're talking about like that.
Yep.
These styles, but like using that hardcore sensibility. It's like those Youth Crew toms where they come out of nowhere. It feels so good and so right. That's the Daniel Chef kiss right there. The fourth track, again, dude, just straight ass beater, very similar to side 1, or side A, but Mike's vocals, like when it slows down, are super catchy and brutal. It's like all these songs have a big hook, and then the album ends on like a big slow song. The same way the side A ends on Empty Wasted World, is a solar song. This one ends on Negative Hardcore. I think Negative Hardcore is a better song than Empty Wasted World, which is also a good song, standout track that Dan said. But Negative Hardcore, dude,
it's my favorite song on the record too.
Yeah, it's just oozing confidence, right? And the drummer does like super simple fills that just work. Like he's not showing off. Like everything in this song is done for like the creation of a better song. And what it is everyone knowing when to hang back, right? The drummer's not showing off. He's just doing really basic fills that just work for this slow, dirgy song, right? Mike, he's shutting up like in half the song, right? He knows like this song's got to breathe, right? And then those artificial harmonics that the drummer's doing, the guitarist is doing, are just ill as fuck. This one just works. It's a perfect final song. And that's what we say, right? Like what makes a good hardcore band? What makes a great hardcore band? A great hardcore band has got to pull off that great slow song, and they got it right here. This LP rules. I absolutely love it. Chris, what's your take on this?
I was hyped to dig into this and to talk it with y'all. This is a band that was always notorious for their intensity live, like even as far up the coast as Seattle, like they had that talk about, oh, this band Gehenna, they're crazy live. I never got to see them, unfortunately, and I always wish that I could have. So psyched to chat this a little bit with y'all. Sonically, this is a bulldozer. It's pummeling. I think I use that word when we talk about the flex, but this is pummeling in a different way. It's relentless. It just like keeps coming after you. Like I said, like a bulldozer, just like running you over. But one thing that I really appreciate about it, and Zack touched on this a little bit when he talked about the drummer and all the different styles he's hitting, is the stylistic and the structural diversity of this record is super, I guess is super important for like this style. I think, when you talk about bands that are pummeling or describe a band as pummeling, it can sometimes be tedious to get through like a full LP because it's just a lot of, getting your ass kicked. But I think with this record, there's enough diversity in the song structure and like the different pieces that make it like such an interesting listen that doesn't drag. And like Zack said, I think another thing that helps is like the songs are so short and sweet and to the point. Like they don't beat around the bush. There's like, here's what it is. Here's how we're going to beat your ass. Next song, repeat, but in a different way. My favorite track on this is definitely Negative Hardcore, which is the closing track. I love the tempo. I think there's stuff on here that's slower, but I think this song is just the tempo is so mean. It just sounds like mean was the best word that I could find to describe it. And I also I love the pinches over the palm muted chug parts too.
Hell yeah. Andy, what's your take on this?
Actually, I thought I would hate it just from looking at the art, and I remember the name from back in the day, and I thought it was going to be. I'm not a dude that knows about death metal and black metal or how to distinguish the two, but I think Dan's put it, or maybe both of you guys, it just was a great hardcore record. It reminded me a lot of Integrity. You guys pretty much touched on everything I was going to say. My favorite track is that No War, No Peace. Like his vocals are just like super evil. I mean, that's what it reminds me of, just being evil. And then it's got that fast breakdown at the end. You guys already touched on the drumming. I think that's what really kept me engaged, because I didn't, for since Ben's not here, but it didn't just go straight double bass on a bunch of parts I thought it would, and it went to other just different beats. Yeah, some of the youth crew toms and stuff, and I thought that was awesome. So overall, I thought it was a rad record. And now that I know it's kind of written in two different time periods, I can see that, and I do like the second half, the B side better.
I love at the end of like No War, No Peace when he like slides in like "fuck the police," because we're on Team Firefighter. Shout out Andy Diehard.
Hey, Zach, if there's one part of my notes that I didn't get to, if I may just say something really quick.
Absolutely, hit it.
Well, one thing I wish is just that the vocals were a touch bit higher. I know it is part of the soundscape of what the band is to like deep them in there, but I really like Mike is a very thoughtful, and he always writes great lyrics, and I want to pick more of them out. I should sit, along with the lyric sheet and listen to it more that way. But there's so many like good lines, like you say that, that fuck the police part, but like that part where he's like, "You wouldn't last an hour in our lives." That's such a fucking hard line, like, and true. Like, lots of people have gone through some hard shit in this band, and I really love that statement. And I can't wait to dig more in with the lyric sheet out while listening to this, because I've always liked Mike's take on planet Earth being a fucking wasteland of dog shit, so I'm hoping to get a lot more out of it as I listen to it more.
Hell yeah. Everyone order that LP so you can get that lyric sheet. Iron Lung Records, Handle Business, Gehenna, Negative Hardcore. All right, moving on. One of Chris's favorites. We are talking Denial of Life. The LP is called No Reason. It is on Spotify. I could not find a physical version on Discogs or any sort of pre-order information, so maybe it's existing right now as a digital LP, which is a goddamn shame, because this LP is like low-key professional as fuck. Like, whoever, I don't know if they got like a really great engineer, or if like whoever's the songwriter in this band is just like a studio genius, but they do so many like studio tweaks on this record that don't make it sound like, I don't know. It's like they're doing all these tricks, but they make the songs better. It doesn't sound like, oh, they're playing with a bunch of toys for the first time. Like, it sounds like really experienced like ideas that they're doing in the studio. So I don't know if that was the engineer or if one of the songwriters just came in and was like, I want to hit like the echoes on this part, and I want to hit like, like these weird little tricks, like vocal and guitar effect tricks. It's pretty wild. But Chris, what was your take on this LP? And did it deliver coming off the previous material?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We talked the 7-inch on a previous episode, and I think we all liked it. But one of the, not criticisms, because that's putting it heavy, but like one of the things we wished was that the vocals would be up front a little bit more. And I think this LP like certainly delivers on that. Like, it's the first thing I noticed. Like, her vocals sound awesome on it. They're very present. They're very crisp. So yeah, I think this sounds awesome, and I'm really hyped on how it turns out. Like Akulu, this is a band that I feel excels when they're writing around like an unreal riff and just taking that riff on a journey. The song Antifreeze is a perfect example of that. It's my favorite track on this. I think, if you listen to that track and then you listen to like the latest Take Offense LP that came out a couple years ago, like it certainly could fit in there. It's got a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of Van Halen in there, but it's sick. Cold Steel is an intro, but it's kind of interesting, and I wish they would have made this into an actual like complete song, because I would just be curious to hear like where it goes and how Bren's vocals add to it. It's got kind of like a Black Album Metallica vibe. Yeah, but this record is ripping. It's I love it. It sounds awesome. You know, if you like bands like Take Offense or maybe like the first Black Breath EP, you know, maybe some early Slayer thrown in there, definitely check it out. Tacoma hardcore.
Yeah, I think that Cold Steel, like, it almost works as an intro into Antifreeze, which is like, it's not my favorite song on the record, but it is a standout track. Like, that sounds like a straight up radio hit, like, not in a cheesy way. Like, oh my God, this is like a hit. Like, it sounds like they should be like playing with like you said, Van Halen or Skid Row or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they could roll out that song and people would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I'll have that riff like stuck in my head, like, you know, a week from even listening to it. Just such a sick riff.
Yeah, I mean, that guitar hook is like, it's a great part, because like it's like half guitar lick and also just half feeling, right? It's like giving you a feeling. It's wild. And Chris, I appreciate that you brought up the vocals, because yeah, the vocals on this recording, they are very present. They're present, and there is like a confidence in them. And while they use like lots of effects on this record, I love that the vocals are there and out front, and she's not hiding behind any like effects at all. Like, it's there, you know? And yeah, to describe this, because Chris is kind of dancing around like early 80s thrash on this, it is like that. It's that big thrash riffage of when, like, I don't know, they're just doing gnarly riffs. It can either be like breakdown tempo or fast tempo, but like all like downstroked. It's really good. And then also there's like a fair amount of like 80s Sunset Strip sleaze in here too. So like if you listen to like that song Disassociate, like that's a sleazy ass riff, you know? But the majority of the record, like, you know, outside of like that Disassociate and like, you know, the Antifreeze, like this thing just bangs, right? Shadow Self is a rager, Downfall, full on banger. Like, this is a great record. My only thing, if I had to give some sort of criticism, and this is not, is just the records for me, since this isn't my like favorite style of music, it's a little long. But I think also, like, you know, I'm thinking through the hardcore lens, right? I'm thinking through that Gehenna lens where I'm like appreciating the brevity of something. But I think that this is like kind of a impressive heavy metal record, you know, where it could cross over very easily. And like heavy metal fans, like, you got to give them a big ass chunk of music, right? For them to feel like their money's well spent. And like, here it is. This is a lot of songs. None of them suck. And like, this is just a straight up impressive record. So, you know, while I think it might be a tad long, like, I think that that's actually a compliment in another world that this LP could succeed in. Dan, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's definitely too long, but that's, you know, just my opinion, man. I think it's too long. So here's how I dug into this. I completely forgot that we'd done the Scheming to Suffer 7-inch earlier. And, you know, I was approaching this, you know, just as a brand new thing. And I started listening to it. And in my head, I'm like, or not even in my head, I'm like driving to work, listening to it going, man, I'm getting fucking sick of this genre, you know, like the kind of crossover hardcore. And I'm just like, this is just boring to me. And then I listened to it again on the drive home from work. I'm like, I really like this, you know, and I started listening to it more. And then I listened to it on the drive to work the next day. And I was like, okay, Antifreeze. And then, you know, everyone's favorite song about Brandon joining Dr. No, Crucified.
Dude, that's so fucking funny.
And Cold Steel, Antifreeze, Crucified, all of these are starting to think. And then the re-recording of that Scheming to Suffer came out so good. But yeah, it is a touch long. Like, I feel if you want to deliver the hardest output, leave us wanting a bit more. But other than that, this is, like you say, you've nailed both of you nailed what makes it so good recording wise. The vocals being out front, the clever production. Like, there's things in this production where it's like, that instrument where it's wood and you've got the stick and you go down it. That's in there somewhere. It's like into a like riff. Like, there's all kinds of shit.
Right, and it's placed in the right spot. That's my point of like, they knew what tricks to pull out because it wasn't just like, oh, there's a wood stick in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, let's fuck with that. Like, it sounds like it's placed in the spot where it sounds super nice, right? It's not just like, oh, we went to a big studio for the first time, let's play with all the toys. Like, everything, all the tricks that they do sound totally intentional and they work. It's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah, and that just leads into such a fucking sick riff. Yeah, I really dig it. I think this is going to get over really well with lots of people, especially that love this, Akulu Take Offense, Dead Heat style. Like, this is right down the fucking pipe for them, and not for us, for everyone who likes it. But like I said, at first I was like, this style starting to get a little old for me, but then they did so many unique things and had such clever songwriting that it stands out from the pack.
Yeah, I like the Smile Now, Cry Later art too. It's sick. This needs to get a physical release. Someone step up to the plate. Andy, what's your take on this?
Without going over too much what you guys said, I really do like all the little tricks you guys are talking about. The vocals too. I like the vocals with the little grunts and the accents just here and there throughout there. They're like not overdoing it and just perfectly placed. I do like that. I feel like listening to it, even though the songs are longer than I normally like, they didn't feel longer. And it feels like they wrote an LP with the different, it takes me on a journey. Like, it's not just a bunch of songs that sound the same that are just a little bit different. There's actually like a lot of variety. That middle block of, what is it? Antifreeze, Bloodstains, and then Crucified, how it goes from those three in the middle there. Really, like, to me, like, almost that's the best part of the whole record to me, where just kind of, it's been kind of, you're almost getting tired of what they're doing, and then they change it up and they take you on a little thing, a little change up, little journey, and then they're back at it and they end strong. So great record. Definitely. Yeah. This band's awesome. I remember Chris recommending a while back, and it's rad.
I think that's a great take. Like, the middle of the record is like where the meat is. It's pretty sick. Cause yeah, they come in banging, but like that meat in the middle, broken up a little bit by that Cold Steel intro. And then like you're into the hit. That's pretty wild. Also, shout out to whoever's doing that Eye Against Eye, the oos or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, all that stuff.
That's got to be mentioned. That's sick. And it's done like multiple times and they all work. It's pretty ill. All right. Everyone check that out. Denial of Life, No Reason LP. And remember, there is a playlist for every episode. Go to 185milessouth.com. Click that playlist link at the top of the page and check out the music that we were talking about, because that is what it's all about. Also, I think you can look up 185 Miles South on Spotify and find the playlist that way too, if you don't want to go to the website. All right, let's move on. We are talking Los Angeles band called Pull Your Card. The Seeing Red EP came out January of 2022. Again, I think right now this is just digital. And yeah, it came out early this year. I wanted to talk about it. I think this thing is awesome for a lot of reasons. First of all, the recording is absolutely amazing. The drumming is amazing. And we love brevity on this pod, right? And for this style of music, to just do 4 songs, have them be all ass beaters, have the production be like, I mean, for someone to get, like, you're doing a EP like this, gonna live in the digital world, and to have a recording this good and like songs this good, it's like, that's where the game is in 2022, right? You can't fuck around. And it's kind of wild because, like, people send me stuff, and I don't mean to be a dick, but like, there's so much music now and so much stuff to get through. It's like, if you got like a wonky recording, if you got like, just some bullshit going on, like, ain't nobody got time for that anymore, right? Like, the game is here, right? You got to come out with like stuff that sounds this good. People are dropping demos that are sounding like, LPs of yesteryear, and hey, what's up, Muldoon? This band is just awesome. Like, it's like a kind of a mashup of like, I know Joe Hardcore hates people using this phrase, but I don't know what else to use, but like modern beatdown kind of, but it's also mixed up with like Shibalba, like type, like just slower, bang your head slow, heavy music that you just want to like nod to. It feels good to nod to because they hit like slower, dirgy rhythms that don't like sound boring. I don't know. I just love it. And like, I love that 808 drop on the Los Angeles, the intro song. So YOLO. Like that someone went there, right? Like, that's like, it's just, they went there, it's so ill. It's funny because the first time I heard it, I had this really shitty phone. And someone I was talking to about it, I was like, yo, this piece is like the most YOLO thing ever. You know what I mean? Because they do an explosion. They dropped an explosion on the intro because like that's what it sounded like on my phone. And they're like, I think that's 808. I was like, no, dude, it's an explosion. It's sick, But now I listen on my headphones and it's like, oh, it's 808. Like, so I apologize whoever I was talking to. You were right. I was wrong. It's an 808, not an explosion. But either way, it's ill. Just came out great. Dan, what's your take on this?
Okay, so what I was going to ask you is, you've said in the past there's a genre of death metal that is centered around the mosh called slam metal. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is this like the beatdown X slam metal? Do you think?
That's funny. I don't know anything about slam metal except that like someone mentioned it one time and I Googled best slam bands. And then like you pull up these videos and you're right. It's like very similar to beatdown. It's like they're playing these rooms to like 30 people. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I like when I listen to them on Spotify or whatever, I'm like, dude, this is everything I like. Like I really liked it all. I just couldn't remember any of it. Which is very similar to beatdown, right? It's like, dude, I asked people that are like knowledgeable of the genre, like, can you give me the history of beatdown? Like, what are what's the family tree of this, right? We all know it starts with Bulldoze, but like, where does it go from there? And like, I don't know, there's no like clearly defined family tree. So if anyone knows like the lineage of beatdown, like starting with like the Bulldoze demo and getting to where we are now, please reach out to me and hit me to it. Cause like, I really do want to know this and I'd love for you to do a starter kit. But Dan, that is a nice idea. Yeah, kind of. But I really do think it's like a mix of knowing how to use that like Shibala like type death metal mixed with
Absolutely.
like that sound.
It sounds mean and evil, which Shibalba does too, always. And especially as they've progressed as a band, Shibalba, like just getting more and more creative and more just brutal sounding. And this is brutal. This is not like, I like a lot of beatdown from time to time, like I like mixing it into my thing. But when this came on the very first, I was like, this is so aggressive, like so of what it is. Do you know what I mean? That it was like beating you over the head with it. Like there's no letting up. This is like music for people to die to.
Right. A lot of it is like real on the nose, right? Like think about the second song, Hell for You. Like they're definitely calling someone a pussy motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like they're going there and they're saying, if I were you, I'd kill myself. Like, I mean, they went there, right? I think it works with this, but like, it's definitely for, you got to be in for that, right? And then like that mosh part at the end with like the harmonics, like, I mean, shit, that they bring it, I mean, they back up those words with like that mosh part. Jesus.
The drummer is extremely talented in this band too.
Yes.
We just went from one band that has an extremely talented drummer when we were reviewing it into another. The drums are what keep this really vibrant and really varied, and also really on the nose when it comes to the actual beatdown mosh parts too. Like it's so dialed in on the quality of the drumming. I think this is like, if this is your thing, Like if you like really hardcore that it sounds purely antisocial. Like this is the kind of thing like if you're sat at your I don't know, like your cubicle and you put this on and your coworker goes, "What are you listening to? I'm scared." That you're probably listening to Pull Your Card. This is very aggressive, very hard. It's very good at what it's doing. Is it exactly right up my alley? Maybe not, but I can appreciate it for what it is. And if I'm on the 580 crossing the bridge and I'm extremely road raging, yeah, I'll put on Pull Your Card and I will maybe chase someone off the bridge. But yeah, I can only say it is just mean.
Yeah, it's good that you called out the drumming because it's great, especially on the fourth track, the Your God. Like, I don't even know how I describe that beat. Like when it kind of hits like to it's not like a hip hop beat, but like it's kind of a off kilter, like mid tempo-y type beat.
It's like almost like up rocking. You know, when you think of like up rocking breakdancing, it's almost got that vibe.
It is. Yeah, it's like because he's doing like an off time hi hat thing.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's like the drumming's great. Also, like I don't know if the drummer's coming up with that parts or if it's like the songwriter like dictating those parts, but again, it's just there's good songwriting in here, which makes it stand out from the pack of like a lot of bands doing the style. Plus, the production is just great, and for this kind of band, you got to have that on point production. Chris, any songs here going to make the Crush All Weights playlist?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to revisit with that lens. I will say, let me back up a little bit. I have a friend that, for all intents and purposes, should love No Warning. But when Ill Blood came out, I pointed him to it, and I was, expecting him to come back and be like, "Yo, this band is amazing." But his response was basically, "That little guy," like he just couldn't get past the fact that this big hard sound was fronted by this tiny little dude in it, and like in my friend's head, that fact kind of discredited the sound. I bring that up because I think if you saw the dudes in Pull Your Card setting up before they go on to play, he'd be like, "Yup, these dudes are huge dudes playing huge dude music." This is really well done. Mosh music, it's a bit more, like Daniel said, it's a bit more on the metal end than I typically will go to, with a lot of double bass and just the more growled vocals. The recording is great though, and like if you like that style of like mosh music, this is going to be one of your new favorite bands. But I think the thing that, like I said, I don't listen to a ton of stuff that goes, it's just like a little bit too far into the metal lane for me. But like the thing that I keep going back to that it reminds me of is 100 Demons in the Eyes of the Lord. And so that was the thing that I was most familiar with that kind of resonated with me with them. But yeah, this is really well done. Like this sounds awesome. It's like Dan said, it's mean, it's hard and heavy. And then I just want to add, I saw them a couple months ago and like, they played and then, broke down their instruments and were like moshing for the rest of the band. So like, that's what's up. That's sick. Respect.
Also on their Bandcamp, it says, for fans of stomping out bitch ass motherfuckers.
Awesome.
I mean, that matched up with that 100 Demons call out. I'm with it. That's one of my favorite LPs ever. And that's a good take, Chris. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, if like, if we're saying that like Madball's the 90s version of like 80s Agnostic Front, like maybe this is the 2022 version of the 2000 100 Demons. Like maybe that makes sense. Like I think that's a good call out. Andy, what's your take on this?
Yeah, not really my lane. Definitely heavy. Vocals were a little too gnarly for me, but I think if I had the lyrics, maybe I could read the lyrics and maybe I'd get behind them. I don't know, or at least be entertained and could kind of, I would have a different take on it. I did like that one song, the Hell For You. It's got like that talky part and then like a crowd cheers and then just like that breakdown comes in. Yeah, it was cool. I did. We played Chain Reaction like a week ago and whatever, and met the drummer of this band, and he was super rad. he was going off for all the bands. Big scary dude, like Chris said, but super rad dude. Just like hung out and talked to him for about 20 minutes outside. So definitely cool dudes, which makes me want to like their band and check out anything else they do. So I'll be checking out anything else they put out.
Yeah, and also like how we talked to Denial of Life, like them doing studio tricks that really work. There's some like smart stuff on here too, right? Like on Blind Action, like they're doing the feedback over a blast beat with like a sample that like is timed out perfectly. So like right when the sample is done, it kicks in with like fast singing on the verse, or a fast part with singing on the verse. Like it just really works. This is creative and great, and they got a big recording for an EP. Like this rules. If you like that style, check it out. Once again, it is Pull Your Card, Seeing Red EP, and it's on Spotify, also on our playlist. Okay, let's jump into Defective Chain. It is a demo from 2022. Dan, can you tell me about this band?
From Sacramento, really awesome demo that garnered a lot of around this area, like in the Bay. Like people were like, "Oh shit, check this demo out!" Like I had like 5 or 6 different people tell me to like check this. So that's awesome. I haven't seen them yet. The artwork is awesome. It's like a winged demon, like boot boy stomping all over a burned out cop car, which rules. What I love about this, actually, I'm sorry, you were asking just what I knew about the band.
No, jump in, man. Go ahead.
I really like that this is hardcore with a very NYHC vein running through it, even if it isn't pure NYHC stuff. You know, there's a lot of like what's going on in today in the amalgam of all of these influences coming together, but the lyrics are very smart on this, but very aggressive. It's just 5 songs and I love them all. You know, I really have dove into this. I love the way the vocals are extremely aggressive, but very audible and a little bit out front, which is great. They're not buried. You know, there's definitely some clever lyrical fodder of just where we are in the world today and how much the police suck and how much, you know, in a post-pandemic world, like we're just trying to get by. Some of the lyrics express that kind of feeling in this world, and I really dug that. I think this is one of those bands to watch, and I can't wait to see them live. I really dig this demo, and I'm excited to see what comes next, and I want this to get put out on vinyl.
Yeah, this is a spectacular demo. Like Dan said, it's like a pre-crossover New York hardcore, but it also is like that meeting UK82 and then meeting like Burning Spirit, like the late 80s, early 90s, like Japanese hardcore. Yeah. They are named after a Bastard song, I think. Defective Chain is a Bastard song off the 7-inch, so I think they might be going after that Burning Spirit stuff a lot because like the song It Exists sounds a lot like that style. Also, the song Evil Tricks, that solo, and then with the cymbal chokes and the nice major chords, like that's very Burning Spirit. I just want to talk the first song briefly. The song Social Injustice. It's like, it's so rad, like the way it comes in, because it's like so basic but so perfect. And that's like the hardest stuff to write. You know, when you hear something that's like so simple but just works, and then you're like, God, why didn't I think about that? It's like it was right there in front of me and I couldn't think about that, right? So they do something, and that's like what I'm talking about with YOLO and what I'm talking about with great songwriting is like people delivering stuff because you need it. You know what I mean? And like the way this starts, you know, with like the cymbal tom build up into like just going with the bass and that caveman fast beat is so ill. And like when the dude's voice comes in, it's just so mean and perfect. And it just reminds me, it doesn't sound exactly like it, but when we were talking the Slant LP from last year, like the way that first song starts and you're like, God damn, that song is so simple, but just so perfect. Like you wouldn't change a goddamn thing about it. Like that's how I feel about this first song. It's just so ill. Only thing I'd say is that part at the very end when it goes to palm muting and does the Never Trust a Pig. It is so catchy. They only hit it once. I actually wish they would have milked it a little bit more. So it's like they can write a hook, and it's like when you got that hook, just give me a little more, man. You know what I mean? I just want a couple more times.
That part's going to be so great live, though.
But can you imagine? It could have been a pylon part. If they just hit it a few more times. But it's a demo. Yeah. Give me it a few times if you re-record this on your LP. What's up? Chris, what's your take on this?
This is my favorite demo of 2022 so far. Sacramento hardcore. I think you guys mentioned a lot of kind of the regional influences. Like I certainly heard like a little Detroit, a little early Boston, and certainly a lot of Japan. Like the two bands that I would compare him to is like maybe if you mashed up 86 Mentality with Bastard. My first, this kind of builds on what Zack was saying about them writing just hooks. Is like my first impression was when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. But I felt like I wish the songs were a little bit shorter. Not that they're super long. I mean, they're like maybe like 2 minutes each, but like it with this style, I like brevity, which we've hit on a bunch for like basically every style that we've talked about. But I think once I listened to it a couple times, I think there's enough like interesting stuff going on throughout the songs, whether it be like structurally or with like bluesy leads that are like there, and you have to listen to them really closely because they're kind of buried a little bit in the mix. As well as like they have some really sick bridges and the vocals like over the bridges are just so sick. Yeah, this is great. This demo is badass. Like if you like any of like just like boot hardcore, boot hardcore, like this is fantastic boot hardcore. And I think Dan touched on this too, but like the recording is solid. It's I would say it's good. It's not amazing. Like there's enough room for them to go in the studio for like the next thing that comes out after this and like just really get a banging recording that sounds amazing. That makes that next record just like next level. But that, again, that's not even a nitpick. That's kind of like, this is a demo. It's a great sounding demo. It's my favorite demo of the year. And there's room for them to build on this and to make the EP like even better.
Yeah, they got to go record wherever Slant did the LP. So start saving for those South Korean airline tickets, man. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, yeah, I like that you said that, Chris, because while this does like grab me off the bat, I do think that there's a lot to sink your teeth into here. So it's like it is better on multiple listens, which is kind of amazing, right? Because that first song grabbed me right away, but then like there is still just a lot to sink into. Andy, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's my favorite record that we went over. You guys pretty much hit on everything. One of my favorite things about them was that all the buildups before their breakdowns of 2 steps parts were awesome. Like just listening to it, sitting on the couch, it was like I could tell first listen, like, oh, here it comes. Like I'm about to, march the dogs into the couch. And I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. So I know every band does it of this style, but they did it, and it was like each one's different, but each one was awesome. So. Yeah, they're rad. The only thing that was missing was maybe like a Mikey Hood guest vocals if they're from Sacto, but I didn't know anything about this band until just now, so or where they're from. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was rad.
Hell yeah. All right, everyone check it out. Defective Chain, the 2022 demo. Check out the playlist. You can link it from there or find them on Spotify or wherever you listen to music. Dan, let's get into it. Hi Vis, the new LP Bleeding just came out. Whenever this podcast airs,
Blending.
It will have just come out. Blending. High Vis LP is called Blending, and it is on Deus Records. Dan, you got 2 minutes. Hit it.
Well, welcome to the record of the year for me. I love this band because I have a musical taste that is strongly residing in hardcore, but also a lot of Manchester and, kind of Britpop stuff that I've grown up on my whole life loving. But this is a band that has the hardcore vein running through them. So like they're hitting the drums hard. Their last record was a lot more hardcore. This one's a bit more of a push into that, a push into the, I won't say it's progression because you're never progressing from hardcore. You're like maybe going a little further afield. But what they're doing on this is going a little bit more into that. It's like some Manchester sounds like Northside or Early Roses meets Stone Roses, that is, meets stuff like the Chameleons, but then also still having that strong hardcore backbone, because I feel the rhythm section of this band keeps it 1 foot in hardcore, as well as Graham's voice, which is very aggressive on this kind of music that a lot of the times the bands that are being referenced here and that are being used as influences would have very breathy or psychedelic vocals, but these are very hard punk, working class, like strong delivery, full of attitude vocals. I think the lyrics on this thing are incredible. Talk for Hours, such a good song about, like being involved in all those conversations where you're just like, what the fuck is this person talking to me about? Like, I don't even like care, And then 0151, which is about basically the Dockers strikes in Liverpool and them being completely rolled over by the fucking conservative government, like basically strategically coming up with ways to smash the working man, especially in the Northwest. Well, actually in all of the North, because previously it was done to the miners' strike. My favorite song on this whole record, though, is Trauma Bonds. I think it is a beautiful tribute to losing a friend, but at the same time, like reconciling that with yourself and the recurring aftershocks that happen with grief. As someone who's lost friends to suicide and also lost my mum to cancer, grief is so strange that like you think you're doing better and then you'll hear a song or you'll smell a scent or you'll hear a word or even just the way something is said and then you'll just get this anxiety of like aftershock that is just grief coming back to you. And I think this song like really, really nails it. I love the sound. I love that the guitar parts are, one is staying very in the pocket and the other one is giving you that you pulling in all that influence that I was talking about and walking all over the song and giving the melody and taking you a bit further and giving you a bit of swagger while you're walking down the street listening to it. It's this is built in a lab for me. I really love this band, and I feel they're only going to get more and more people appreciating them and loving them with this, because it's not going too far away from what the last record made everyone love them. And, lots of people are only just learning about them still, but, here on 185, we've been singing their praises for quite a while, and we've got the other High Vis super fan on the pod too, so Posi Chris is going to have many things to say too.
Yeah, the last record goes harder, and I don't know if I don't know. So I think that it can break either way, right? Like this album is spectacular listening to it. Like I don't know the style. Like I don't know what Britpop is. I don't know what shoegaze is. So like I don't know how to describe this stuff because Dan didn't even touch on any of the phrases that I thought he might have. Like he's still leaning like this is punk, but this is not punk anymore. Like I don't get like the aggressiveness of the vocals that you're talking about or anything. Although, maybe like lyrically he's getting there, but his vocals sound nice and all these songs sound nice. Like I enjoyed this. I listened to it multiple times. The last record just goes harder, like in a way that like their style was really spectacular for me, like looking for a little bit more of up tempo, like punk sensibility. That's like where I land, right? Like I love even like, up tempo late 70s punk, right? That was like kind of radio friendly. You know what I mean? Like if you think about that last 12-inch, like the first half of that is all up tempo. You know what I mean? And then that song Voices was like a legit punk rager, and there's not that much that's up tempo. Like that track, the third track, Out Cold, is up tempo and it is spectacular. I absolutely love it. I mean, that's in my lane, and the other stuff I can listen to it and be like, damn, this is good music. It just doesn't like it's not in my lane so much. But great music, and from all accounts, awesome people. I'm rooting for this band to succeed. I can't wait until Noel or the other Gallagher is kissing the ring of this band. So, Dan, is it Noel or was it the other Gallagher that smashes watermelons?
Yes, both. No, the thing about this is like when it's not Britpop, it's not Britpop at all. It's like referencing Manchester stuff, like stuff that was like North Side or even like early in Spirals. That's just, but also the same thing. It's doing like the Chameleons and even the Cure to an aspect,
All right. Well, Dan, I don't know any of that stuff outside the Cure, so you got to make a playlist, and we will see Zach's take on all that on Patreon.
Yes.
So what's up? That's what we got to do, right?
Starter kit.
We will do that. We'll do the what is that? Manchester Sound Starter Kit. We'll do it on Patreon.
Madchester.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris, as a super fan of High Vis, what was your take on this LP?
I think this record is great. We all know this is not a just world. I think in a just world, this is the biggest band in the world. I think they're incredible. I think both their LPs are perfection. I mean, Dan did a great job covering all the things I think that are important to talk about, like who they are and their sound. But I will hit on two things real quick. Trauma Bonds, the lyrics on this record are great. I'm excited to get it, like, a hard copy of this and be able to sit down with the lyrics, even though you can hear, you make most of them out. There's just a different experience, like looking at the lyrics as you're hearing them. So I'm really excited to like get a hard copy and sit down with it. But like, there's a line in Trauma Bonds that stands out to me. It says, "It might just take one reason inside to carry on, or something sharp to cut these trauma bonds," which is such a fantastic line, about all the things that Dan said about experiencing grief and loss and coping with those things. And then the other thing, 0151, Zach, I think you need to listen to that song some more, because this is the hardest song they've ever written. Like, this is a straight up working class fight song, and not just the lyrics, which certainly the lyrics, but like, it's hard. Like the way that it kind of comes in building on the toms is so like, it's more hardcore, I think, than anything on the previous record. And like the lyrics of this one are sick too. This is a song that just makes me want to throw rocks at scabs. I don't know. There's a line, "Ghosts of the docks and the factories, the specters of somebody's history. The river runs everything out to sea, but we're still here." I think this is the best song of the year so far. So when we get to the end of the year, Super 7, Dan and I may not be battling for who gets to take the single song, but we might be coming with a high vis track in the first round. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll put that on the playlist for this episode 0151, and I'll listen to it again.
Oi.
Not many songs over 4 minutes that aren't Iron Maiden songs that I love. So, but I will check it, and that's awesome. Andy, what's your take on this?
I think it's cool. I'm with you, Zach. I don't really know how to classify this. I do remember Chris recommending the last record, and I was in the rain with my kids, and we listened to it, and kind of hit home, whatever. I don't know. So it's kind of a cool experience with this band and my kids all at once. So like, I am a kind of a fan of this band just from that time and a place type thing. But I'm with you. The other record kind of went a little harder, but I do like this one. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. Nothing I can really go into. The lyrics do seem clever. He's got a British accent, so that makes him seem even more clever.
A Liverpudlian accent, which you should love, Andy.
I do. I was hoping there'd be a "You'll Never Walk Alone" cover on there, but there wasn't. So, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, this record's great. And I love hearing Dan and Chris go off on it. So I'm not gonna taint what they said. So yeah, I do like it though.
I love it. I think it's a great accomplishment, right? I mean,
yes, it's
just because my sensibilities lean to the No Sense No Feeling 12-inch. Like, I think this is like a better record, like for the masses, and by all accounts, like a true record of themselves, and maybe what they were going for the whole time, right? Like, again, listening to it, it sounds spectacular. It's just No Sense No Feeling. Good God, man, that record brought the heat. So,
but maybe if you spend more time with this, like, it will.
I will. I'll listen to it 3 times, but we're also like listening to the Advance, and I hate that the SoundCloud stuff.
It's tough.
I know that's like look. I'm not complaining about getting records early. Thank you to everyone that shares with us, so we can talk these albums when they come out on time. But like, I'm just like, I like to have the songs and listen to them on either my iTunes or on Spotify or on vinyl, right? And like, I hate YouTube, I hate Bandcamp, and I hate SoundCloud. And maybe that's just me being a boomer. I accept it. So whatever.
The artwork for this record is really cool too. Like, I think that's another thing that, I mean, for our generation, it's an experiential thing, holding that record and looking through the layout. But I think the artwork works really well for this record too. And I'm excited to kind of get a closer look at it.
Yeah, sets up the vibes. And shout out Muldoon. Okay.
The fight lasts for hours, each ram battering the other dozens of times.
Head to head.
Let's wrap that segment. Okay, we're going to go head to head. Count me out. Permanent. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Dan, we'll go to you first. Okay, here we go. All right, we are going head to head. 2 of the best LPs of the early 2000s. We're talking Count Me Out. 110 LP came out in the year 2000, and their second LP, Permanent, came out in the year 2002, both on the mighty Indecision Records. And we talked about this, I believe, on the very first Super 7 with Kim Possible. And I was shocked to hear that some people like the second LP, Permanent, more. And so this is kind of the whole reason for the head-to-head. I can't believe it's taken this long to do it. But Dan, head-to-head, Count Me Out versus Permanent. What are you taking?
This would be like saying, do you want to cut off your left or right foot? I love them both, but ultimately, it's 110 for me. What they do and really well on Permanent is they utilize a lot of negative space and an uptick in the way they use octaves creatively. And the it almost has a darker tone to the recording, even though the songs are harder on 110 slightly. So it's difficult to say that, but when I say it's got a darker pastiche to it, it's more like built into the tone of lyrics matched with the music. Whereas
And
110
is post ANLP.
that's
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's hard now thinking back on it 20 years later, like the effect that LP had. Like, even if you're not going for it, it's there. Look at the albums that come out, in that early 2000s era, post American Nightmare LP. A lot of like that vibe is running through them,
Yeah. But then it just comes down to things like the song Another Year on 110. Like, those were the days. That's just a lie to make you feel like, oh, it's so fucking good. And the way on 110 that the music does consistent, like, really deep crunching all 5 members perfectly lockstep with these builds to then these, it's not like a full youth crew break, but it's like goes into like ring outs that just are so uplifting and give you that whoosh of like where you want to bounce and jump and like almost do like a spin mosh move, like, and then straight into a 2-step. Like, there's something that this is my favorite hardcore record of all the 2000s. So it can't get better than 110. So 110 wins because Count Me Out 110 is the perfect hardcore record. Like, I love it more than almost any. Going back all through the 80s and everything, it stands alongside all of those. And I absolutely love Permanent. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. Like, there are so many songs on it that I adore, like South Street, Stakes is High, Betrayed, like Against the World, Disconnect, like so many, but there is no let up on 110 of no stopping of perfection in hardcore music. This is like a band that takes Chain of Strength, synthesizes it down to something that is even more essential. That's what Count Me Out does for me. And 110 wins.
Chris, what's your take?
In head-to-head, sometimes you follow your head, and other times you got to follow your heart. Even though my head says Permanent is objectively superior, better from a strong structure perspective, my heart says 110. For a lot of the reasons that Dan mentioned, the nostalgia factor obviously plays a big part in hearing and loving this one first. But Permanent is awesome. There's, both are fantastic records. They both are a little bit different. The songwriting on Permanent is a step above. But I think the simplicity of 110, and I say that in comparison to Permanent because it's not a simple record. Like, it's got some complexity. But when I'm up on stage line checking my guitar, I'm not riffing South Street or Stakes is High. I'm playing the lead to Built Through Time. The drums are fantastic on both of these, but like specifically on 110, this record's deceptively hard. Like, I remember once like listening to it driving down I-5, and Tim Mack I'm driving, Tim Mack's in the backseat, we're blasting this, and he's just like punching the back of my headrest to the beat of this, like moshing. Like, it's like, I think it was at that point when I realized like how hard it was. Both records have some pretty interesting picking patterns. I'd say if you're a fan of modern beatdown picking, like some of the speed picking and variations, like and you want to see how that style of strumming can be used in a different way. Like 110 has really tight picking patterns, and like palm muted parts. But then with Permanent, what they do is they kind of take that beat down influence of alternating variations on the speed picking, where, you know, it's like when you're driving your car and you hear like a speed picking pattern and you start to play it, you know, try to play it on your steering wheel. But what they do is they alternate, you know, with a slight variation, the same beat, but like a different picking pattern. And so what you do is you find yourself picking what was the previous bar and, you know, find that you're a bar behind because it's alternating every other one. And I think Permanent does that a couple times really well. And so it's interesting just to kind of hear that that thing that is such a staple of, like, you know, down-tuned mosh music, but played in, you know, more light sounding, you know, E-tuned fast hardcore. So anyways, all that's to say, both these are great records. Permanent is probably objectively better, but I'm going to take 110.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, it's interesting hearing you say light sounding. I think that we're going to say a lot of things in describing these records that don't come out right. To describe them, I think that people just need to listen to them. They're so spectacular for, like, when they came out. Like, I remember the 110 LP coming out and it just being like, oh my God, this record sounds so big and so perfect. And just, like, for the genre, it's just, like, out of control, right? The vocals, like, they got compared to Chain of Strength a ton, because the vocals, the yelling is there. Like, it's got, like, that, the diaphragm is there. Like, it's so gnarly and the recording is so good. So it's weird to hear Chris say, like, lighter sound, but that is comparing it to, like, metal beatdown. And that was really smart. You saying, like, there's so much picking stuff here. So if you like to listen to, like, that more metal sounding, slower drop tune hardcore for the picking, like, here it is in, like, a band that's, like, doing, you know, modern Youth Crew influenced music. And the reason why I picked up on, like, you know, you're saying something that isn't coming out right to describe something is because how I felt going back and listening to Permanent multiple times, you know, a week or so ago. Like, I want to say that it's, like, easy to listen to. And I think that that's not, like, I don't know, like, when you think about describing hardcore music, like, that's not what you want to explain something as. But let me, like, put it in a different way. So, like, when In Control used to tour and we would do, like, overnight drives and so forth, like a long ass drive, right? It's like you're falling asleep. I couldn't put on Slayer because I've listened to Slayer so much and I know those songs, like, they won't keep me awake. So even though, like, that's some of the most brutal, aggressive music in the history of Earth, up to that point, for whatever reason, it's so, like, ingrained in me. It's, like, kind of easy to listen to. Right. And what I would have to do to stay awake is put on the Bulldoze CD, which was a demo and the 7-inch, because, like, they played that slow music and I would headbang to it at a bunch of different tempos and it would keep me awake. Right. So, like, but listening to Permanent, it's like, God, this record is so easy to listen to because all the songs are great. The recording is great. Like, there's nothing I would change about it. There's no filler tracks. It is just, like, this spectacular LP that, like, is awesome. But for me, like, getting into it now, like, it just never grabbed me before. And maybe I didn't have the CD then, or I don't know. But, like, if I didn't get into it then, it's kind of hard to get into now, especially comparing it against 110, which is one of my favorite records ever. Because, like, you know, we were talking in the group chat. I was like, okay, I've listened to Permanent a few times and I enjoy every minute of it, but nothing is, like, popping out at me. Can you guys give me the standout tracks? And you did. And I listened to it and I'm like, God, I like all these songs, but it's like 110 just has, I mean, think about starting the record with Best of Me or Dan, like you talking about the Another Year song, right? Which is like them pulling off a Spectacular Pussy song, right? And then What We Built, like, think about that one. Like, that's a re-recording of a song that came out better, which is, like, a total rarity in hardcore. Right?
came
When
out
does a hardcore band re-record a song and is better?
and 100 times better.
Dude, they nail it because they're that good. And like this recording session is just like one of those wild things. Like, you know, like why does Age of Coral come out so great? You know, John Joseph has like laid down vocals since then that are great, but like nothing like that record, right? And like nothing ever sounded like that again. There was just like something in the ether in that studio when like that record was recorded that like made it so special, right? And like everything on 110 and Permanent is probably duplicated, like same studio, same dudes. For some reason, like 110 is just like, you know, if Permanent's like a 10, like 110 just takes it to 11, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not even talking about my favorite song off 110, which is Far From Close, which somehow, Count Me Out pulls off doing a Blue Oyster Cult ass Don't Fear the Reaper ass part and turns it into a great mosh part with Youth Crew toms, right? Like, it's just so spectacular. And it's like, you know, before we were talking about bands that put out 2 great LPs, and Ben is talking about, you know, Circle Jerk should count, right? Because Wild on the Streets and Group Sex. And it's like, dude, if Group Sex didn't exist, like I think we would consider Wild on the Streets a great LP. But it's like Group Sex is a 10 and Wild on the Streets is like an 8.5 or a 9, right? It's actually hurt because Group Sex is so great, right? And I think that is what happens here with the Count Me Out thing is like if Permanent stood alone, I think we'd be talking about it as one of the greatest LPs of the 2000s and like stands up against everything. But it's like, God, that 110 light is just a little too bright. I'm 110 all day, every day. Andy, where are you landing?
All right, I guess I'm the outlier. I love 110. I felt like when it came out, that Youth Crew old school hardcore is my jam, and I felt like when Count Me Out put that record out, they took everything I loved and just did a record from the 2000s, and they updated it and just kind of, I don't want to say rehash, but they did that style perfectly in that year. And then so you guys already touched on that record enough. When Permanent came out, I thought that they just took everything they did in 110 and did it better, like a modern version, even modernized it a little more than just I don't think rehash is the right word, but I don't know the right word to say, but I feel like 110 was the perfect, you know, the new Chain of Strength record that they did and made it perfect for the 2000s. And then I felt like they stepped it up and took a step forward. And I know it gets compared to the American Nightmare stuff, but I feel like they did it and kept it even more Youth Crew than American Nightmare did. So I really like the Permanent. The art on it's cool. Yeah, everything about it. I like that one better, but that doesn't take anything away from 110. They're both awesome records. Mazzola is probably one of my favorite vocalists from that time. His voice is awesome. Lyrics are awesome. So that's why I like it. I feel like they just took 110 and they just took a step forward. So I do agree with everything you guys said on 110, though. It is a fantastic record, too.
I'm so glad we had one voco that way because I believe when we had this initial conversation, again, back on that first Super 7, Dan, you and Kim were both saying that most people lean Permanent now.
Yeah, I think so. Most of my friends in SD, like Don and Matt Mitchell and stuff, that I think they all like Permanent better. But how can you when what we built? Oh my God, the part where he's like, it does the ring out with the harmonic, and he sounds so desperate, and he's like, and then it comes in with the gang vote, built with time. When will we rise? What's looking in our... Oh God, it starts building up and just getting so frantic, and I'm ready to fucking mosh right now.
They pull off like melodic hardcore without it sounding weak or with it sounding like pretentious. It's just so spectacular. I don't know. Like this and the Fade of Grey LP are like my two pieces of like melodic hardcore that I like the most.
Indecision por vida.
Yeah, and then on the Count Me Out Spotify, it's 3-2 for Permanent. So who knows?
Side A versus Side B.
All right, we are doing Side A versus Side B for The Right Brigade self-titled 7-inch came out in 1999 on Stillborn Records. This was a listener request. Anyone, if you want us to talk about something, shoot me an email, 185milessouth@gmail.com. I get back to everyone, and oftentimes we take your suggestions and put them into segments. So handle business. Chris, Right Brigade 7-inch, side A or side B?
I love this record. Nowadays, I think maybe it's kind of shockingly low rated, but the impact that this record and this band had on influencing the bands that are more recognized as kind of the game changers of the mid 90s or the mid aughts can be overlooked. Like, this is a super influential band, like kind of, I think, changed a lot of people's perspectives on what they wanted to do in their bands. I mean, you know, we talked a little bit about No Warning earlier, who, for the record, I love. But like, before this band, those dudes were in a band called As We Once Were, I think, which was cool. It sounded like Side by Side. And then Right Brigade came around and they started No Warning. I mean, I don't know if that's like the canon of how it happened, but like, you know, from someone on the other side of the country, that's kind of how it seemed like a lot of things were happening. This record's awesome. I think for me, there's 2 standout tracks and then a bunch of other solid bangers. And I think both the standouts are, there's one on each side. So for me, I'm going to look at this as Plead Your Case, which is the opening track, versus Think Again. And both these are songs with super hard, like moshy intros, like extended intros before the song breaks in. But Think Again is the GOAT. Like, this is my go-to. It's basically a blood for blood worship track. But, and I know that I'm probably going to get slaughtered in the comments for this because this is probably sacrilege, but I think it's better than any blood for blood song. It's so sick. I used to have a running playlist, and there were two songs that would get me like just running a tick faster. And one was Bittersweet Symphony, because there's a song that the Seahawks would run out to. And so like when it would come on, I would get pumped up and I would picture myself as, you know, Lofa Tutupa running through the tunnel, like to a crowd going wild. But the other, without all that loaded background, was Think Again. Like, the intro comes in, down, Right Brigade! Ah, there's like screaming and smashing bottles, like, inject that into my veins. I'm like Captain America blowing by the Falcon, just saying, on your left, as I'm running by. I'm going side B.
Love it. Yeah, that's all those takes are good, Chris, because it's hard to describe how influential this was, right? And I think there's a few pieces of it. Like, it's youth through kids getting mean. So it's that. It's not coming out of like the New York hardcore lane. It's coming out of like more youth crew throwback lane dudes getting meaner.
It's like dudes from Fast Break and Follow Through.
Right. So a lot of people that weren't listening to hard music before, like, this was a safer thing to latch onto, right? If Madball's a little too much, you had this and then you had No Warning. But I think that one thing that this doesn't get checked for of how influential it is, and I would have to like go back and listen to the American Nightmare demo again, but like the drumming on this is so fast. Like, going into think about like a Day Late, like how fast that song is. It's insane, and it's faster than like all the youth crew comeback stuff. Like, but it's doing straight double time. So it's like the youth crew double time beat was like a certain speed, like a certain beats per minute. Or if you wanted to go faster, you would go to the scissor beat, the dicka dicka. And like this stuff, and then, you know, the American Nightmare 7-inches for sure, and maybe on the demo, like they just step up the double time beat that is like so fast and so gnarly, it like leaves that stuff in the dust, you know, when it comes to speed, without going into, you know, the abrasive for the sake of being abrasive styles. Like, it's definitely not grindcore or, you know, power violence or anything like that, right? You're just going as fast as you can. Like Slayer, right? Like Slayer wasn't doing like blast beats and shit. They were just doing a double time fast beat as fast as they could. And I think that's something that's very notable about this band. So for me, yeah, okay. And if I'm going to give one criticism of this, like I think some of the songs are a little long, and also I am 100% on the other side of the fence from Chris on Think Again. Like I hate that silly party shit in songs. Like unless you're like a serious party dude where you're killing yourself, like Blood for Blood, it kind of makes sense there because, I mean, Rob like was a party animal at that point, right? Like this just comes off silly to me. And also it's a 3-minute song. It's like, just stop. But Keep Me Down on side A and A Day Late on side B, and just a lot, fuck, all these songs are great, right? The first 5, in my opinion. But it comes down to Keep Me Down and A Day Late, and I got to go with Keep Me Down because that is like the ultimate YOLO shit, a fast part for like 3 seconds into the breakdown and out before you know it. Day Late is also a super short banger. Love it as well. And the speed on that is just ridiculous. But I'm going Keep Me Down slightly over A Day Late. Shout out Clevo, fucking legend. And hell yeah, I'm going side A. Andy, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm with Chris. I like the hey, the bottles getting broken. I like all that. I'm a sucker for that. The intro on side A is hard as hell, though. I mean, that is between those two songs, like Chris said, for me as well. I do like that. Yeah, Day Late is a 1-minute ripper, but I'm going side B. Come Undone's an awesome song too, one of my favorites on the record, and then Think Again's my favorite track too. So I'm side B.
Oh yeah, I love it. Dan, what's your take?
Well, shout out Cincinnati. Our boy Cincinnati playing bass on this, as he's been named and shamed in a photograph, repping those Cincinnati Reds. He just must be a big Pete Rose betting fan. This is so good. So if you've ever loved the Carry On, Roll With The Punches 7-inch, in particular, Off My Chest breakdown, the roots are right here. Like, this 7-inch absolutely, like, influenced bands across the country, and definitely Carry On. And which I'm glad of, because I love that Carry On stuff, and I fucking love this 7-inch. I love Right Brigade. I love the way there is influence from a bunch of different things, but it's very unique the way this music is put together. Like you say, like there's that tiny YOLO part going into a thing, but the expansive builds that this band does is where they really resonate. Like the building, like intro of Plead Your Case, the building musical explosion of Think Again. That's where, and on later on when they did their LP, there's a song on the LP that I'm trying to remember that has just this awesome like build. I can't remember. Sorry for that, everyone. I'm just lost in my senile mood over here. But
check the comments of this episode on Instagram, and Dan will chime in with what song he's talking about.
Yeah. But I mean, I think Jesse's voice is such a great hardcore like vocal, like the growl, but being very audible, being aggressive, but being like extremely fitting with the music. It's fantastic. Now, if I'm going to have to decide between the two sides, I'm going to go side A, because Plead Your Case is just, that's the way you open it. And I absolutely love Think Again too. And I do love the build out of the party, which, yeah, I can see it. It is so funny that like Blood for Blood is referenced in regards to that party part, but Blood for Blood is the only other band that does these epically massive build parts that this band does so well as well.
There's a lot of floor punch in this. Like if you think about it, like floor punch wraps up in this year. This comes right after, right? Because a lot of the breakdowns, they're just a tick slower, and floor punch did that as well. Like it's that perfect like floor punch tempo, right? It's just a little bit under like an up tempo, mid tempo. So it's just that one tick slower. So it's like the perfect like tempo to dance to. And this hits that on those like big open breakdown parts, you know, where it's like the guitar is not doing any palm muting. You're hitting like chords, you're hanging on them. The drummer's on the cymbals. You know, it's just these big open mosh parts. And they're done at like that same floor punch tempo, which, you know, tried and true found like the best tempo, like the best like straight mosh tempo. And there's just a lot of that. But yeah.
Without a doubt, there's a ton of floor punch. Like, I mean, the influence to all of these kids, like who are in this band of like floor punch being around at the same time, they're going to Blood for Blood shows at the same time, you know. So I think it is that like that's a really good point that floor punch plus Blood for Blood plus your record collection equals Right Brigade, you know. So you're referencing like YOT and things like that as well as those two bands that are peers. I don't know. It's a fantastic 7-inch, but I'm going side A. Plead your case.
Yeah, or even the difference of this versus the floor punch is when floor punch goes super fast, they're doing the scissor beat or the digga digga, but it works and it's not distracting because the vocals are so catchy, right? Like every word that Porter's saying on the demo and the 7-inch, even the LP, a lot of it is like so catchy that like it overshadows like that beat. Plus it's all like very short. And what this does is spectacular is that fast beat is just like next level, you know, it's like, it's as good as a fast beat on the American Nightmare LP, you know, that's that fast. So anyway, we're tied. This is a great 7-inch. Everyone check it out. Yeah, it's wild to think that this might be underrated now because like it's kind of an all-time hardcore 7-inch, especially for like this era coming out of the Youth Crew revival and going into like, you know, a little bit meaner early 2000s and also like, you know, the ANs breaking off and so forth. Like this is a spectacular record. Everyone check it out.
And it's also produced by Dean Baltunis, who did Ill Blood.
Yeah, and it also comes out on Jamie Hatebreed's label.
Yeah.
You know, so how ill is that? All right, we are going to do a UFO segment for Death Threat. Peace and Security came out in the year 2000 on Triple Crown Records, also vinyl on Bridge 9 Records. This might be the hardest UFO we've ever done because I cannot imagine Death Threat without Aaron singing, right? It's what gives it so much personality. I mean, at this point, like all this early stuff through this, sonically, it sounds a lot like Hatebreed. But those vocals just make it stand on its own. And so I don't know who to put in here. I still haven't come up with an answer. I'm going last. But Dan, what's your take?
All right. So the perfect example why this is the hardest UFO of all time. There is a band called Terror. They are brilliant. They are amazing. I love almost everything they've ever done. Scott Vogel is an absolute legend. They just covered Death Threat, Dead at Birth, and it just doesn't have it. You know, I respect the shit out of them for covering Death Threat and turning like a bunch of, you know, newer people onto Death Threat, but there's something without Aaron, it just doesn't work, you know, like on Dead at Birth. So, and that's no disrespect to Terror. Like, it's a fucking killer track. It just, without Aaron Knuckles, it's like, fuck, I just don't get the full Dead at Birth, right? So,
no, Dan, to tie in before you do that, let's talk about this because Scott might be able to appreciate like the metaphor. Like, he's like the king of monotone, right? He has the perfect voice that never like fails.
Yeah.
Right? It's the perfect yelling voice and it works like so perfectly on everything, but because it's so monotone perfect and it's like good God, how is it always perfect, right? He can do like a 40-minute set while wearing a hoodie and it's still perfect on the last song. Like it's straight up like a gift, you know? Like if you think about like great basketball players, right? Like there's the people that like have all the talent and then there's like people that put in like the hard work, right? And the great ones, they got both, right? Like they got all that like God-given, born with it talent, and they put in the hard work, which makes them great. And Vogel's that, right? Like he's gifted with his voice and he puts in the work because he's one of the all-time touring machines, right? And somehow has been able to maintain the voice the whole time. But yeah, it's like imagine putting Guru in MOP, right? It wouldn't work. Like with these voices, like they have to have like all that bursting personality, right? But like Guru is one of my favorite of all time. Like I would never.
The king of monotone.
He's the king of monotone, right? He crushes on everything. That's why I use that as an example.
I wonder if Vogel's 5'8". It would be perfect if he is.
Oh yeah. All right, Dan, what's your take? I didn't mean to cut in on you that like that, but like
no. I mean,
yeah,
I
want everyone knows like
color.
you are saying it's like Vogel, one of the greatest hardcore singers of all time, but it's too hard to cover something like this, right? Where like the personality and the voice, like, you know, we just talked about the Count Me Out, right? Like them re-recording what we built and having it actually work. Like usually re-recordings of songs don't work, and a lot of times covers don't work, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of times what I'm trying to say is there's lightning in a bottle that is Aaron Knuckles, because his voice shouldn't work, but yet it has so much charisma and so much talent and so much YOLO, for lack of a better term, you know, like it's undeniable, right? So let's go to Death Threat Disgrace, right? Who are you going to find that can do, after all these years, I can't just turn my back? Like, who could do that, right? There's hardly anyone in the world, but I'm going to say one person that I think, normally I like to go, oh, I would love to hear this person's style on this, but with Death Threat, you can't do that because the record would go from being absolutely spectacular to being good without what this amazing vocal delivery is and an acquired taste that Aaron's voice is. So for me, I can't go, oh, I'm going to plug in this person because they have, you know, like Dwid is fucking brutal and great and I want to hear that. No. I want someone to give me that same kind of charisma, attitude, and swagger that you get with Aaron Knuckles. And I'm going with Puerto Rican Mike from District 9. I think that is the person that could ride this and give it the swagger and give it the well-earned street mentality that is pouring into these songs perfectly, and he could totally nail that. After all these years, I just can't turn my back. Like, he would nail that. So I'm going Puerto Rican Mike from District 9, totally stepping up to try and do what no other singer can do, which is fill Aaron's boots.
Dude, that might be the best answer. You're right. Because I was thinking maybe Eddie Leeway, maybe Jay Mindforce. But fuck, I'm going Puerto Rican Mike too. Dan, I think he nailed this one, dude. Because, yeah, I mean, like, you know, we did a whole Patreon episode of me for the first 20 minutes berating everyone for low rating the District 9 7-inch on our 90s top 100. And good God, that 7-inch is so good. The lyrics are so good. There's so much personality in it. And it's like, God damn, Puerto Rican Mike is one of the greatest singers of all time. Like, on it. It's like, I don't know. I think that, like, them being so funny on the New York Hardcore documentary, like, it made their name. Like, the people know who they are, but it kind of fucked them in the way that, like, people don't look at the record seriously enough. Like, that it is, like, a spectacular piece of music. You know? It's like, and it's so wild for the time. Like there's so much in it, right? Like they're getting buck on it, like, you know, like a Fahrenheit kind of in a way, but it's so more honed in and like down over the plate hardcore. And it's like what makes it wild. I mean, like the music's wild, and yeah, Puerto Rican Mike's voice hones it in, but also makes it like spectacular and over the top. Yeah, plug him in for Aaron. I mean, like this is the hardest one ever. You just can't replace Aaron. But I guess if I had to choose someone, that's it. It's Puerto Rican Mike from District 9 7-inch era. I don't know, Chris. What's your take?
So I wrote up a whole thing attaching someone to this, and then as soon as right when we started recording, I changed my mind and thought of someone else. Shake my hand, say pleased to meet you, look me in the eye, want to believe you. I'm going Justice from TUI. There's no Aaron Knuckles, like, you know, you guys have all said enough. The way he flows is so unique, like the different like styles of voices he uses. There's no one like him. But I think Justice could do it justice. Whoa. Unintentional. Could do it in justice in a way that is different but really cool. Like both of them really have kind of like a hip hop kind of bouncy vibe, where Aaron kind of like flows off of the beat like butter and like, you know, hits the right like staccatos. Justice kind of like slithers over the beat, kind of like a little bit more sleazy and like so I just picture Justice like sleazing his way through all of this pain and it's hard to cope. And I think it would be really cool to hear. I'd love to hear it. That's my pick. I'm going Justice from TY.
Dude, I think that's a great take too. Jesus. All right, Andy, what's your take?
I like both of those. I'm going hometown though. I'm going with Marshall from the Warriors. Aaron has all those different voices, different styles, kind of a rappy one, a catchy one, a hard one, and I feel like Marshall, when he was in his prime, not that he's not in his prime now, but during the War is Hell, when he was a little bit YOLO and just kind of letting it fly, I think he would have done a great job on this. But I'm a sucker for the Warriors and sucker for Marshall, so that's my take. But I do like Trapped Under Ice and District 9. Those picks are awesome as well.
I think that's a great choice too. I mean, in all people that got some flow, right?
Yeah,
like,
and he would love to do it, and he's got that swagger that I think could maybe do it justice as well.
That's true. Yeah, I love that take. All right, Dan, final thoughts on the episode.
I did like the J Mind Force, but I feel that was like too right down the pipe, you know, POI, etc. Episode ruled. Listen to Count Me Out, everyone. Listen to Count Me Out. Listen to everything we've talked about, but, you know, run yourself a nice hot bath, get in the bath, Dan Sant style, put on 110, and mosh that water all over the walls. That's what I would like you to do.
I love it. Chris, final thoughts on the episode.
Thanks for having me. Love talking hardcore with y'all and love listening to hardcore and just big up in stuff that is good.
Hell yeah. Andy, final thoughts.
Thanks for having me. Dan, you just reminded me that about 2 months ago I did a stage dive my kid on his bed and we broke his bed. Or I broke his bed and stage diving him. So yeah, but yeah, listen to Count Me Out. They rule. Thanks for having me, dudes. Always awesome to talk with you guys.
Andy, what was the song?
I don't know. I gave him it was permanent though. I busted the LP out and him and his buddy were listening to it and I caught him listening to it. So I had to go stage dive him.
I love it. I love it. That rules. Yeah, everyone check out the playlist for the episode because again, it's like we're talking and this is like 2 hours you listen to people talk. You weren't listening to music. Let's hone it back in and listen to music from the podcast. What it's all about. Support hardcore, buy records, go to shows, you know, put your money where your mouth is. This is like a living, breathing creature and hardcore is a contact sport. You gotta support it, right? That's what it's all about. We are it's as popular as ever, but let's maintain it, right? Like, we don't want this to be the peak. We want to maintain it. Let's get it bigger, or like let's maintain this for a long time, But again, it is a living, breathing thing, and respect anyone out there that feeds it, whether you're just paying at the door, buying a piece of merch online, and especially the labels out there putting their money in, and also people doing zines, that Today Forever zine, I got it in the mail. What a beautiful piece of work, you know what I mean? So and it's like, podcasts are kind of the new zines for the modern era, but it's like, God, when you get a zine in your hands, it's like that nice. It's like, fuck, there's not much better than looking at like a beautiful halftone photo of a great live hardcore shot. It's like, we can see photos all the time on Instagram, but it's just like, hardcore, when you buy that LP, you get home from the show or you order it in the mail and you open it up, it feels so good to have that, like, that big piece of art in your hand, and then you put it on the record player, you drop the needle. There's something spiritual about that, right? That's like how people listen to music for a long time. And hardcore and hip hop kept the vinyl shit alive, And so, like, it's a piece of this. But what I'm getting at is, it feels so good to hold like that physical thing and look at it and take it all in. And hardcore fanzines is such a huge part of the history of this thing, this big, beautiful beast. Right. And that's a spectacular fanzine. And I loved reading it, flipping through. Shout out Andy Diehard. Great interview in there. And
those that couple of rules, man. Matt and Nikki, awesome.
Yeah, it's a spectacular zine. So everyone step your game up. If people are putting out demos this dope, people are putting out zines this dope, step up and match it. You know what I mean? Hardcore lives.